Hi guys, this is Siri from Siri Tutor Blogs. Today we are going to look into one of the interview questions for business analysts. The question is, can you walk us through the requirement gathering process you followed in one of your project from the initial illustration through the final sign off? So for this question, this is how I have formed my answer. Let's get started. So as a business analyst, I follow a fixed structured approach from the requirement gathering to the through the sign off to ensure there is an alignment and clarity and successful delivery. So in this first in this process, we have to understand the business need, the problems definition. So I start by identifying the business problem and why is this needed and what is the expected outcome. So for this, the problem statement, the problem definition, to give you example from one of the fintech projects that I have worked is bank wants its customer to report um, fraud or invalid transaction online or through the app instead of contacting the customer support. So this is the problem definition. So you have to understand this, and you have to identify the stakeholders and illustrate the requirement from them. So the stakeholders could be the product owners or the operational teams or the compliance teams in the IT industry. You have to identify the stakeholders who are going to give you the requirements, and you have to use different illustration techniques for that. The first one is the stakeholder interview, Jade, and the workshops, uh, job shadowing and observation, questionnaire and surveys, and brainstorming, and process walkthrough. So I have made a separate video for the illustration and illustration techniques. Please watch that out. I'm not going to go through those details now. That is the most important question for the interviews. Please go through that video. Let's get into the details of process walkthrough here. So process walkthrough is the decision and the meetings with the stakeholders who where they explain the business analyst how the current process as of today is working step by step. In a IT sector, the business stakeholders could be any team, including operational teams. So they will explain the business analyst that a customer um, contacts the support, and the agent is going to verify the transaction, and the agent is going to raise the dispute manually, and the backend team is going to process it. So as a business analyst, you listen, and you have to ask right questions and take a notes of the requirements, and the goal here is to capture both functional and non-functional requirements. The next in this step, the next in this process is documenting the requirements and transforming the requirements into the user stories, and acceptance criteria, and then the process flow diagrams. Okay, let's get into user stories. How should we write our user story based on the problem statement? So the user story should always be from the end user point of view. So for the problem definition, what we have, so this is how I'm going to define my user story. Um, as a bank customer, I want to report the transaction online, to so that I can easily and quickly resolve the fraud transaction, unauthorized or invalid transaction, uh, instead of instead of contacting customer support. So that is how I have defined the user story, and this is the acceptancy criteria. Before going into in depth into acceptancy criteria and its examples, let's see what is acceptancy criteria. It's a condition that has to be met for any kind of feature or a user story to be considered as complete and acceptable. So these are the few examples that I can give you how the acceptancy criteria has to be written. The first one is the transaction can be submitted within first 90 days. Within 90 days, it's a valid acceptancy criteria. If it is greater than 90 days, it has to throw out an error message, and the edge case would be 90 days. The second one is the user is going to enter a valid dispute reason. It could be a fraud, invalid amount, or a duplicate amount. The valid acceptancy criteria is whenever he enters a valid reason, then only he has to go to the next, proceed to the next screen. If he doesn't enter, he has to see a error message. And the edge case would be here is the um, the invalid the input text box. The developers can develop an input text box or a drop down menu. If it is an input text box, the end user can input any free text from his end, and he can enter two combinations, like two reasons instead of just one reason. So that is the edge case. And then the other one is creating the system will create dispute case id. So whenever the transaction is accepted correctly, case id is supposed to be created. It has to create a valid case id, and it should be unique case id. And the next one would be whenever the case ID is successfully created, it should send out an email to the customer knowing it is confirmed. If the case ID is successfully created, it sends out an email. If it is not, it has to log an error, and then it has to retry. It can redirect to a retry, or it can just log him out, right? And the last one is and the transaction amount. The transaction amount, maybe we can say it should only be within 1,000. If it is greater than 1,000, it needs a additional transactional check. So if it is just within 1,000, less than or equal to 1,000, it just proceeds to the next screen. If it is greater than or equal to 1,000, it has to do some more internal transactional validation. So these are the different examples of the user acceptance criteria that I want you to guys know. So once we come up with all these once we document all these user stories, acceptance criteria, and flow diagrams. So let me talk to you about the process flow diagrams, which I haven't covered. So process flow diagrams are of two types: as is flow and to be flow. So as is flow determines the current state, which shows how the current process will work as of now, as of today it's working. So for example, it could be like the dispute handling manually, and there are multiple steps and there is a delay. That is the current process. And whereas to be process is something like it's improved process, where we can say that the dispute transaction is submitted online, and the process is handled through an automated system, and as a result there is an improved process time, which increased the efficiency of the overall process time. So that is the to be process. So we document all these things. Once we document it, we have to make sure we validate these process flow diagram, these documents with the stakeholders. So we have to conduct, so for that we have to conduct the requirement process flow process through sessions, the requirement walkthrough sessions, and and the stakeholder reviews and the clarification requirements meeting, to ensure there is no gaps, no ambiguities, no missing scenarios, and especially to make sure the business needs are all correct, the business rules are all correct. So once we validate it, we have to create our own artifacts, requirement artifacts, which includes the process flow, to be flow diagrams, the data mapping, uh, the all the data mapping documentations, and the and uh, uh, and the wireframes and mockups. These are the three artifacts that we have to create in order for the requirements to be clear, to clearly understand to the rest of the team. So I have already gone through the process flow diagrams. To be flow diagrams will be created here, and it is as flow diagrams will be created during the documentation. So talking about the data mapping here, so data mapping is a process where data fields are mapped from the source to the destination, like the target systems, to ensure the flows are accurate and transformation is done correctly. So as a to tell you an example, when the source have the data field, say like trans id in the target system, it's going to be transaction underscore id, but the mapping is same for both the fields. Okay. For example, here, if the data field name is cust underscore id, here in the target system it's going to be customer underscore id, or customer underscore identification, something like that. So I have to make sure, so as a business analyst, I prepare the data mapping to identify the source and the target system, to ensure there is a definition of the data field mapping, and documenting the transformation, and then business rules, and analyzing the data quality, and validating the results with the stakeholders to ensure there is an accuracy in the data integration. So yeah, so once these artifacts are created, I prepare and make sure I maintain requirement traceability matrix. So I make sure I ensure this each and every requirements is mapped to a user story, a test case, and a business objective. So once I have all these traceability metrics in place to ensure there is no gaps in the implementation, I go ahead uh, with the sprint refinement, the backlog refinement, and collaboration. So, in this step, I make sure I work with the product owner uh, to reprioritize the sprint backlogs, and to ensure the business needs are incorporated. And I work with developers to clarify the business logic, and I coordinate with QA to ensure the functionalities are all testable. So in this stage, we will come to know all the user stories are ready for the sprint planning and implementation. So once after this step, uh, the next step is UAT and business validation. So during the UAT, I support the business users, and I ensure um, uh, I ensure and I'll explain what is the defect and what is versus what is expected behavior, and make sure the solution is having and it meets the business needs, and is all according to the business rules. It just specifies all the business rules, and it is all right. All the business rules are correct. Um, the final step after this is the sign off, the final sign off. This is to ensure that all the implementation, all the requirements are implemented uh, correctly, and the UAT is successful, and I make sure the stakeholders agree to the solution is meeting their expectations, and I will take formal sign off from the product owners, from the business users like the operational team, and the compliance team. In fintech, it's very important team to get a sign off, formal sign off from the compliance team. And then once I get their formal sign off, that will give me a confidence in going ahead, moving forward with the production release. That's it, guys. I hope you like my video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.